Hey, welcome. We're back. It's Sunday, August 30th, 2020. And I always like to give you guys a little friendly consumer warning prior to start listening to the Sunday podcast.
That way we can say later, we did warn you.
That's right. All we're doing now is we're covering our bases. This is the disclaimer. This is a small print for the Sunday show. On the Sunday show, we are not going to talk about the normal things we talk about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. On the daily podcast, if you want... Obviously, you want drill down business stuff specifically pertaining to real estate, then listen to those shows. On Sunday is where Julie and I are doing our decompression, where we're decompressing from the previous week. We're sharing with you guys things that we're looking forward to. Generally speaking, Julie and I are perhaps overly optimistic people, but we try to sort of tether ourselves to the earth by looking for information that will shock us out of our confirmation bias. And so on this show, Julie and I will sometimes debate and talk about different things, but a lot of times we just like to talk about crazy stuff.
Yes, because it's more fun.
Because it's fun, yeah. Like we talked a couple Sundays ago about how there's no Bigfoot in Puerto Rico, and then a lot of you guys were kind enough to share with us not just Bigfoot, Chupacabra, is that it?
Chupacabra, yeah.
Yeah, and then turns out the Bigfoot here in Puerto Rico is... how do we say this? Much meaner and uglier than the animal.
Much more serious.
Yeah. It's seriously good. I have my application for my Bigfoot calls. I actually have it on my phone. I could start doing Bigfoot noises in the background during our podcast today.
That would be good.
But yeah, so the point is that on Sunday we talk about whatever we want to talk about, and I usually will have dosed Julie with a healthy barrage of arbitrary news that I found from just random stuff, just to sort of keep her on her toes. But yeah, so that's what Sunday is, and it just just get ready, because I'm telling you, it's usually kind of bizarre things we talk about. That's it.
Yes,
disclaimer over.
Anything goes.
So Julie, I have a question for you, and this is the one thing I did prepare. Okay. Actually, my question, and I thought
okay.
I thought of it about 3 minutes ago. So, just if you were to start with absolutely, not thinking about what you're going to say, and just say the first answer that comes to your mind when I ask this question. Ready?
Okay.
So what are the top three most prevalent thoughts in your mind right now? What are the three things that you're working on, personal or professional right now?
That's a good question. Oh, let's see. Top three things. I'm actively trying to listen to, whether it's podcasts and or read things that are maybe a little bit out of the real estate wheelhouse, just for variety.
Listeners, do you see how she's working through answering the question?
Well, but I'm trying to think this is out of priority. This is just my initial reaction. Okay.
Top three things.
Yes, I'm actively trying to make sure that I stay frosty on a multitude of different things.
Yep.
Okay. One of them being Spanish because of the kid. Okay. Another one of them, I really like historical things with a little bit of a housing twist to it. Okay. So like things about royal families and, stuff that not everybody would be interested in. But I think it's interesting, especially our historic homes in this country. I think everybody that's in real estate should know something about architecture. So that's just, a random thing that I like to pursue. Second thing, obviously, is fun stuff for us to do in the upcoming 12 months, not just, tons of podcasts and coaching calls, which is all good, but also, doing and seeing different things that are on our goals list. And then, of course, keeping the kid from going feral with the advent of homeschool and all that encompasses. Those are my top three.
My top three would be, I'm really intrigued by this whole inflation versus deflation debate.
Yeah.
I think that's really fascinating. We talk about it on our normal podcast. We might touch on it here, but that's really incredible, just to sort of try to place your bets on which side of the inflation deflation debate. And when I'm beginning to see happen, or I'm believing going to happen, and this is what's really going to be crazy, is I think there's actually there can be two things can be true at the same time, and I think we're actually going to experience inflation and deflation at the same time. We can bounce back back and forth on today's podcast. That'd be the first one. And on from a personal note, I hope the gym opens up.
Yes.
I miss definitely going to the gym. I miss all of our gym buddies.
Not instead of our walks, but in addition to, I think.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
enjoy our daily 6-mile sojourns.
And the third thing I have to say that's definitely top of my mind are all the people I talked to in the past week and then are scheduled to talk with in the following week about eXp Realty. Mm-hmm. Those are, I'd say, matter of fact, I'd put everything in the reverse order. I was just making my list of all the people that have texted me asking about eXp Realty, and the rate of people asking me has increased by almost.
It's huge.
It's huge. It is. And I think I have a list right now of maybe 20 people that I'm following up with and tomorrow and Tuesday. And the reason is obvious, because eXp Realty, it sort of, I guess I feel grateful for our involvement. I really do.
Too.
I feel very much in gratitude, not just because of the financial benefits, but also because all the great people we've come to know. And some of the most important people in our lives right now. Have you thought about this? Some of the most important, most influential people in our lives we've met in the past 18 months through eXp Realty. But isn't that insane for us to say that? Because it's not like we've been replete of good experiences.
No, but it's interesting, and it's great. I was just texting with one of our friends from eXp this morning, who's probably going to move here, and we were talking about schools and stuff. And
move to Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
That's cool.
But yeah, and those 20 people that you're following up with, those are just the ones that are more obvious in your email and your text and your voicemail.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of our listeners that are thinking about it, ruminating on it, doing their research. So yeah, I'm excited about it too. It's pretty awesome.
I wonder when I see like EXP and all these other companies that are sort of emerging to be the new industrial leaders of the next, however long generation, 2-3 generations, normally really great real estate ideas, in particular concepts, they last usually about 30 years, and then something replaces them. I mean,
Historically, that's
Remax came before Keller Williams, and now EXP is obviously going to be the king of them all. But it's fascinating to be involved in the company at this time, because of the fact that it's growing at such a rapid clip, and seeing all the incredible talent that it's attracting.
Definitely.
Not just the sheer numbers of people, but just this past week, just as for example, I had conversations, and I'm not going to tip my hand as to who, with a former CEO of a major real estate company who is going to join. I had a conversation with, actually indirectly, with one of the top 10 people. Actually, I already said 10. One of the top 10 teams at Berkshire Hathaway.
Okay.
So who are moving over.
Yeah.
I had another conversation, ironically enough, with someone who's another team in a different part of the country than this first one, also with Berkshire Hathaway, one of the top 15 teams, basically. And I had a conversation with, the list goes on and on. And so what we're seeing is, or what I'm experiencing anyway, are a lot of teams and brokerages that are switching over because the economics make sense. And you actually wrote down a kick-ass term. You showed it to me right prior to the show today.
Make sure I get it right.
Yeah, get it right.
Decision compression.
Yeah, that's what's happening right now in the country.
Yeah.
All these things that normally would have taken. And I found that was the other thing, actually, Julie, I have to say. Again, this is an informal podcast, and I don't know, I'm just going to talk to Julie like I talk to Julie, and I'm not going to worry whether you guys are taking it the wrong way or not. But I have to say, you and I really kicked ass about all the things we predicted were going to happen back in February.
Yes.
Can you believe it, honestly? How are we that smart? I hope we can be that smart again. Probably not, though.
I think some of it, yes, thank you, Past Tim and Julie, for doing your research and having it together and being,
yeah, but
right about most things. But it's not that we
everything.
wanted to be right about these
No.
things. Some of them are,
But we did.
I know, but we did. But here's the thing. I think it's because we've become armchair economists, and because we study this stuff.
I wouldn't give us that much credit.
And I said armchair. I didn't say actual economists.
I would say.
And we don't just read random headlines that,
We're milk crate economists. We sit on
Maybe
milk
that's what
crates.
it is.
Yeah. Well, who knows why?
I don't know.
Really, honestly.
I'm just talking.
It's the combination, probably, of you and I being history nerds,
Yeah.
being not afraid of change. Essentially,
well, we have to give some credit to the people that we talk to every week too,
Oh, yeah, our
because
coaching
we're
clients.
very tuned in, not just to our local market like most of our listeners, because you guys have to be hyper focused on your local market, but because we speak with hundreds of agents between ourselves, our coaching calls, my premier coaching call, talking with all of our Harris certified coaches. I think we have a pretty good beat on what's going on out there.
Along those lines, Julie, you just reminded me of something. It was kind of funny. We had early on, back in early February, maybe the second week, someone who's associated with it, maybe a coaching client whose husband works at the FDIC or works at the SBA or something. Remember, it was out of D.C. And you sent me this clip of notes that this person sent that was totally, completely from an informal meeting that happened. And this informal meeting was basically, and it was either a she or he said this is what was expected to come out. And then you and I used our further research based on that particular gamut of content. And then you had another client who's either husband or wife, don't remember what, was working in the Pentagon. Remember?
had clients working in the Pentagon.
Okay, had clients working in the Pentagon, and then they said that something had never
confidential intel.
Well,
Basically.
they told the realtor who told their coach, so I don't know
Yeah,
how confidential
but
any of that is.
I'm not sharing names, but yes, basically, yeah.
Yes, but there were some things that had happened that were happening in the Pentagon that basically had never happened before, as far as all the, what was it?
It was anticipated unrest, and that they were kind of polishing off their plan of where they're going to stash governors and senators and hires up should the unrest actually hit.
So that was some insider information that they were actually talking about implementing. I don't remember the name of the plan, but we reported on it on the website and on the show.
And that was pretty early on.
Yeah, and then it was in March, I think, that we actually started hearing, and it was completely from the fringe news sources, and then basically it was admitted to be true, that the Pentagon situation that we just told you about actually was meeting to implement something that was only implemented in times of war. Right. And it was where they essentially legally, top operatus, or I don't remember what, they can essentially allow U.S. troops to be active on domestic soil, which is actually illegal. And somehow, I'm not, my Latin sucks.
No, I remember it, yeah.
Yeah, and they did, what was it, B-52s and stuff were flying over, all kinds of things. And the normal press didn't hear about it, normal press didn't talk about it. Well, we took all these little smatterings of bits of information, which happens from, the fact that we have tens of thousands of people listen to us every day in the coaching business forever, and that's where we started to really formalize what our opinions were. And we predicted exactly obviously we didn't pull it out of a crystal ball. We told you guys about all these sources before. And so that's how we kind of knew it was going to happen. And furthermore, these same sources and other ones are now telling us what they're hearing is going to happen over the rest of this year into next year. And so when Julie and I are giving you guys predictions about inflation versus deflation, it's fascinating for me to hear all these real economists, not just Julie and I, who are actually giving really great arguments for both things happening. And then you sort of like gather your own local sort of, help and for opinions. And then you come up with these really, really convoluted sort of amazing things. And so last week, actually it was about a month ago now, you and I started predicting there was going to be somewhat of a renaissance that was going to happen in the economy on a whole, but certainly in real estate. And we're starting, and the renaissance being, can you just give them a real quick snap of that?
Kind of a reawakening, a new enthusiasm, lots of creativity, definitely moving forward in a multitude of different areas at the same time. But, real estate is clearly the front runner of the economy right now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, exactly. You're taking things that normally would have taken a generation to have happen, acceptance of ideas, really. That's really what the issue is.
Well, it's related, I think, to decision compression.
Yeah, exactly.
Things happening more quickly, and that's, you could call that a revolution if you wanted to, revolution of ideas and of online technology. I think it's all wrapped up into a renaissance of sorts.
Yeah, for sure. But what it really is, and unlike the Renaissance, which lasted hundreds of years, this is going to last obviously maybe 5 or less. But you're seeing this quick acceptance. Like, for example, online schools have been around forever.
Sure.
Right? And now, but online schools were always seen as sort of like,
they didn't get the same love.
They're like the best of the rest, best case scenario, right? Nobody really took them serious. Well, it's because the existing institution, if you want to call it that, was doing everything it possibly could to minimize the effect of online schools because it made them obsolete. And then what happened? And then look at all these other industries where the exact same thing is happening, where there's this revolution that normally would have taken, seriously, a generation. Absolutely. You never would have questioned loading up Zoe every morning at the crack of dawn to take her to school. You never. That just would have been your life for the next, and her life for the next 20 or 18. How old is she?
12
years. How many
grades do you want her to get through?
Hold on, 12 years. Yeah. But now because of this, that's not going to happen.
Well, and even most people thought it was kind of a strange request to do a presentation on video. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with you, right? And now, if you don't offer it, you're the freak.
Well, one of the things we're going to start talking about more in our podcast is how to do a really effective video listing presentation. Actually, we're going to give you the overview on the podcast, and then Julie's going to talk about more on PC. But that's one of the things everyone's going to have to be really good at, because here's the thing. Even after, oh my gosh, did you hear that Trump was suggested during his RNC speech that he was basically saying there might be a vaccine for the coronavirus by the end of the year?
I know.
Talk about That would be an amazing thing.
Well,
Again,
talk about a kickoff for a real party, real renaissance,
But seriously.
Imagine when that happens.
Yeah, talk about partying on the street.
Yeah, and, people criticize, oh, these predictions and how can he claim this and that. But, with the Operation Warp Speed and so many different doctors and scientists working on it all over the world.
Yep.
I think it'll happen. I do.
And they have the, the therapy and the whole thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short is that we're in this era of American history that Julie and I have researched to try to find a parallel for, and we haven't been able to find anything. Yeah. There hasn't been anything that's... You could argue maybe World War II, truthfully. World War II, and certainly after World War II, that would probably be another era where you had just a massive amount of change, especially in the United States economy and, industrialism and the rest of it. But right now, we're definitely going to experience something that's going to feel very much like a boom. We already are. So how does that affect housing, obviously, is where our dominant thoughts go. And I always start, the most practical, tactical way, how does it affect our individual practitioners, our clients? Mm-hmm. And the thing that always draws me back is trying to clear their head of misinformation.
Yes.
I wrote a question down the other day, and I started working on this. I didn't get very far with it. I told you this question.
Tell me.
Remember, I was brainstorming with myself, and I said, so why does real estate have an 85% failure rate, basically?
Within, 18 months? I think? Yeah.
And here are the questions, right? And these are obviously designed to be somewhat antagonistic and what would be the other word less than antagonistic?
Making you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Introspective.
Introspective, right. So does real estate have an 85% failure rate because agents don't do enough branding? Does real estate have an 85% failure rate because agents don't buy enough leads? Does real estate have an 85% failure rate within 18 months because agents don't form teams? Does real estate have an 85% failure rate because agents don't know how to do social networking and make TikTok videos? Does real estate have a 85% failure rate? You guys can go down all the list of all the things that people, once they get into real estate, are told that are important they should be thinking about. And then you got to go back. If those things were really valid, why is 85% of all agents, once they get their licenses, within 18 months failing? Why is that true? Is it possibly because none of those things really matter? Have you guys ever considered that? So I had this interesting text exchange going back and forth, and I could actually read it. I could find it.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, should I find it?
You should. It was really interesting. I think they should hear it. I do. I think it.
But I gotta look at my phone, so you gotta.
Well, so the ramp up to that while you're looking.
I don't have my mic.
Yes. Okay. Well, so I think what you're looking up has to do with somebody trying to market to us.
I'll set it up when I find it.
Okay. Well, at any rate, when you guys hear this, I want you to think about when people are pitching you, and imagine also yourself trying to pitch us, because this person did not know who they were talking to, which I think made it that much more interesting.
I might have a hard time finding this.
Well, that was talk about
that was the gist of it, though. Well, the exchange was hilarious, though.
And I thought I have to say, for the other side, because I know our side of things, I was impressed that this individual did not give up. So that was kudos to them.
He sent me a spam text, long story short, and he obviously had scraped our information from some God knows what source, thinking we were a real estate agent, or I was a real estate agent that was looking to, do the dumb things that normal real estate agents do when they get licenses or when they're thinking about their businesses. So this exchange, hopefully I can find it.
Use a search.
I will. Yeah. This exchange, basically what it did was him and I going back and forth, and he was essentially trying to sell me into why I needed all the things that I know I didn't need, and listening to what he was, how he was saying, or what he was saying. I'd have to do a more in-depth search.
Okay. Well, and so I think what he was asking about was giving more exposure. He was coming from, like, if you were a realtor, right?
I think I found it.
Versus the coaching business. I think that was correct. And because you asked him questions.
Okay, I found it.
Yeah, about real estate.
All right, so, yeah, to this guy's point, though, honestly, it's more of a compliment than an insult. He's trying to sell snake oil for sure, but the reality of it is the manner in which he was trying to sell this, I thought, was actually very effective, in that he wasn't trying to lie to me. He was not, like, when I'd asked him a question, trying to corner him into lying, he didn't actually try to take the bait, so I appreciated that. So I'm going to read this to you. I'm not going to mention his name. Hi, Julie, are you ready? This is the intro, right? It's a cold text. Hi, Julie, are you ready for a social media assistant? We are running 30% off campaign for our new service that produces daily content. Being seen on social media is crucial for your expansion. Only one EXP agent. Well, there you go. That's how I got the information.
Yep.
In Texas is eligible.
Scarcity.
I'm not going to use this name. Well, whatever. And so here's my question back. Why is it crucial? Why exactly, I asked. Because and this is his response, even the least tech-savvy folks are still going to Google a business to find out more information. And if your name isn't showing up in the search and you're not telling your story on social, that client is going to go elsewhere. All right, so I'm gonna level off here before I get back to my response. The probability of you guys or ever forming a website or having anything that is searchable for any keywords beyond maybe your name at this point in the game is absolute zero. So don't let anyone sell you into believing that you're ever going to be found on search.
But tell them why.
Because that train has long left the station. So if you try to, guys, long tail, short tail, all these different SEO terms you don't need to really worry about, because all the all the NARs and the Zillows and the Trillias and the dominant broker sites and everybody else has so dominated the organic search results that the probability of ever being able to work your way through SEO into normal search is about zero. So the only way that you can really do it is by spending money. So I want you to think about that concept of spending money just so you show up in pay-per-click. To what end? And so as I go through the rest of this, I just want you guys to realize that if someone's trying to sell you on the idea that social networking and any of the rest of this is going to get you in some dominant position with the keywords that matter to you, it's just not true. Now, it might, like I said, if someone did a search on your name, then yes, if you had a Facebook business page or whatever, that might show up someplace on the first page, assuming you have a somewhat unique name. But if you don't have a somewhat unique name, you might not even show up on the first page. And the reason, again, is because there's so many old links. Like Julie and I's timandjulieharris.com. We bought that website, oh crap, I don't even know, 1990, right when they started selling URL, 97, I think, okay. Actually. Right when they started selling URLs, I think it was 97, we heard about, URLs. We didn't even understand what we were buying, but we knew we probably should buy our name.
Yeah.
Okay, so we bought our name. So we have an ancient URL. So when it comes to real estate coaching, one of the, gambits of learning all this SEO stuff, which I had studied ages ago, but now I realize it's basically become dubious because, again, it's very difficult to get placement for any good search terms because so many people have such old links and have built so much content around it. So you pop on the real estate radar and you say you want to try to create links around New Albany, Ohio homes for sale or whatever. You're never going to do it. It'll take you years and years and years to even have one link show up on the first page of Google search. And Google's pretty much the king of all search. And so the only option that would leave you is basically paying for traffic, which again is a black hole, which I'm going to get to when I read you guys the rest of this text exchange. All right, so I'm going to take a step back. Tech-savvy folks are still going to Google a new business to find out more information. And if your name isn't showing up on the search and you're not telling a story on social, that client is going to go elsewhere. So he also actually showed me that he thought you were a new agent. So he said new business. So that must mean he was soliciting a list that he figured were new agents. All right. So this is me responding. Can you provide me with something validating that sellers will search for an agent using social? In other words, everyone and their dog are on social. Seems like a big who cares at this point. That's for me, right? Mm-hmm. His response: are you currently not using a Facebook business page? I said no. How many leads per year? This is my question to him. How many leads per year does the average agent website or business page generate? I'm researching now. Any idea? And then he goes, his response: leads from social media vary. And my response: I just read an article on Inman News, and you guys can find this too. The average agent website generates a total of, wait for it, 0 leads per year. So the average agent website, which you guys are probably, especially if you're a new or even seasoned agent, you're believing that you should have, is going to generate you absolutely no business. And so this is his response. Content marketing is a slow process, but also the least expensive. So content marketing is blogging. Content marketing is creating videos. Content marketing is all the time-wasting garbage we tell you guys to avoid for the most part. And so he says, and again, this is the reason I think he was pretty much ethical. He said content marketing is a slow process, but it's also the least expensive. It is a slow process, as in you'll never do it. It's slow processing.
Really slow.
Measured in half-lives, okay? And this is my response. Remember, I'm supposed to be Julie. Craze, what's the point? And then he goes, paid advertising can generate leads immediately. And this is my response. That's what I didn't understand. Content marketing, why bother? His response, content marketing allows you to tell your story. You guys will like this next part. Tell your story so people can feel like they know you before they work with you. Lead generation through Facebook ads works much, much faster. We've generated 62 leads in 7 days for a client before. My response, what value does a lead have? It's just a name and basic contact. And who really cares about my story? I'm not that interesting. When I had to find a dentist last month, no, I did make this story up. When I had to find a dentist last month that I could care less about his story. It wasn't last month. It was like 3 months ago. Right.
But that's very true.
Yeah, I know. I didn't care. Right.
Yeah.
All I cared about was if he, and it was actually a she, if he could solve my issue, broken tooth. His response, the difference between, say, buying a list of expireds and running a Facebook ad is that the lead from the ad decided to give you their information. Then he responds, ouch, I'm glad you got that taken care of. My response, yes, but the expired has a house to sell. A lead is just a lead. Agreed, but the lead gave you their information via your ad versus the public having the contact info for the expired. My response, an expired is a real seller, not a lead. So the lead from social is all mine. Didn't share their info with anyone else? ? That can't be right. Who knows, right? A lead is worthless by itself. To your point about expireds, that's clearly someone who has a house to sell. Why not just go after them? His response, it depends on who else is running ads at the time, but you know how, let's see, this is where, but you would know what your listing has generated interest in that person. I guess what he's saying is basically he's going back to social ads. Here's my response. I don't have a listing again, and who cares if it generates interest? I price a house correctly and stick it in MLS and it sells. Are you saying social and this is my typo. Are you saying social and having my listing on many different sites increases the value to the seller, i.e. more exposure means higher price? And here's his response. And by the way, guys, I'll tell you the truth about that. Having your listing on multiple websites has absolutely no bearing whatsoever on any aspect of the sellability, the price achieved, or the days of the market on the house. So there's
many studies on that.
Yeah, of course it doesn't.
From different places.
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's another big lie, basically, that people say to try to get agents to buy a bunch of crap. And Zillow really pushed that onto the public, trying to get them, the sellers on Zillow, to pressure their agents to have Zillow pages. But it was never true. Right. More exposure does not increase the price of a product. It just doesn't. It just basically you're going and showing, especially if it doesn't sell, you're essentially telling more people on more different websites that you have an overpriced listing.
Right.
Exactly. All right. So here's
I haven't sold yet.
Exactly. Here's his response. More exposure would mean the homes get seen by more folks that would help you sell it faster. Then we would be able to further market that experience to help you generate more listings. All right. So again, more exposure does not help a listing sell faster. That's just not true. My response, can you prove that more exposure, of course I'm going to ask this, right? Can you prove that more exposure increases the price and shortens the days in the market? His response, again, this guy doesn't try to lie, again, to his credit. This home was on the market. He sent me a link to a house that he basically did some social networking marketing, I don't know, witchcraft for. And he said, he sent me a link. At some point, the realtor's responsibility to facilitate the sale, not the marketer's. I'm not really sure. Yeah, okay. To my question, please, my response, and his response. We ran an ad for a client for a new listing, and it was under contract within 2 days. That blog post details the process. Then I said, everything sells itself in this market. Price it right and stick it in the MLS. And he says, sounds good. Sounds like he was getting frustrated with me. And I said, your ad had nothing to do with that house selling. And then he goes, I'll try to get back to you in a few months. And then I actually pivoted the conversation because I was interested in talking to him about maybe working for Julie and I because he was very diligent. And he, given the opportunity, he did not actually try to lie to me, which I appreciate in a salesperson. But the reason I read that to you guys is because that is essentially the message, that series of things that he was saying. And I'm not going to read you guys the rest of the exchange. But he doesn't have a real estate license. He has this business that he was trying to generate, essentially clients for was his own business. And I like this guy, right? He's diligent. He's entrepreneurial. But he was selling snake oil, and he didn't really know it. How would he know it? I'm guessing from the nature of this exchange, he probably has only been paying attention to making a living for maybe, since 2007, when all this paid marketing, social networking, buying leads, malarkey basically has come about. And so he doesn't know an alternative path to creating business. So that's the thing. When I was reading that exchange, when I was going back and forth with him for a few days, it was fascinating to me that he was absolutely praying at the altar of malarkey.
Mm-hmm.
That's
and perhaps didn't know it.
Yeah, and perhaps didn't know it. But that goes back to the whole generation of people that don't know it.
Yeah. I mean, how would you necessarily, if you hadn't been through the historical, actually seeing, like the whole thing you were talking about before, paying somebody to try and get your website to come up anywhere even remotely close to the big guys, the Zillow, the Realtor.com, et cetera. But, you and I see that because, you used to be able to be seen that way before all of that happened, and then gradually they took over, and now it's just a completely losing battle. But if you hadn't had that historical foresight, then it gets back to you don't know what you don't know, and it's through no fault of your own. And some of these guys are pretty good salespeople.
Yeah, well, exactly. And so, and a lot of you, and the way their pitch is geared, if you notice the way he was saying it, and you guys get these emails all the time too, is that they gear towards apathy. They're trying to gear their message towards you not having to do anything other than give them money and they're going to do the rest for you. And that's the great lie. But I can see why it's appealing, because essentially is the idea that you can, take a blue pill and lose 10 pounds. It's the same thing. But it is so far from the truth about what it truly takes to be successful in business and life in general. In business specifically, but in life in general. Anytime you look for the shortcut, you're always going to fall flat. You're always going to experience, undue hardship and unnecessary frustration, because you haven't learned to basically master the real, art and science of being successful long-term in life. I mean, that sounds condescending when I apologize for it, but let's say in life as it pertains to making money, and maybe other aspects of your life, you're as right as rain, but with regards to believing that social networking and whatnot is going to generate you real constant streams of, predictable business, it's just a lie.
Here's the other issue that I see with coaching clients on this. Because all this online stuff is significantly out of the average salesperson's wheelhouse, they don't know how to hold anybody like that accountable. What question would you ever ask? Because I can tell you what their answer is always going to be.
Well, he said
give it some more time.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
He said, give it enough time. Content media, basically, whatever.
Yeah, they only need one objection handler. Give it more time. Because how would you know the difference?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, you can't stop doing back in our era, it's postcards, right? So you can't stop doing the postcards. Yes. You just stop too soon. What are you talking about? I've been doing it for 5 years. I've spent 50 grand on this. Oh, no, I'm telling you.
It's about to work.
Another 6 months, it's going to break through. And then they tell you some story. I know someone named Bob in Peoria, Illinois. He got a listing after, direct mailing postcards for 47 years.
Yeah, if they didn't mention that was his mom.
Right. But so these guys are just marketers that are trying to sell you marketing. That's what marketers do.
It's the same idea, different flavor.
That's exactly right. And the social media and all this stuff is designed to shield you from the bitter, harsh truth that unfortunately life, long-term levels of any sort of meaningful success comes from long periods of doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. So that goes back to the question that I was starting to work on, is there almost an 85% failure rate in real estate after within 18 months or less, because of why? Because agents give up too soon? I don't think that's the reason, honestly. I don't think that's the truth. I think it's basically because, and it's not necessarily all the other things you guys are being told too, like you didn't come into the business with enough savings, or you didn't come up in the business with enough money to buy leads and all this stuff. You just weren't told the correct way to go about building a sustainable business. That's it. It's kind of like these Survivor game shows, or what are they called? Reality TV shows. Yeah. And if we drop you in the middle of I'm looking out as I am talking to you guys, I'm looking at a small, which could only be described as a jungle, and I'm looking at this jungle and I'm thinking to myself, if I were to be plopped into a patch of jungle that is, say, 10 times the size of this, and I wasn't told how to get out, and I was given a machete and hopefully some bug spray. Oh God, I hope they gave me bug spray, right? And then I had maybe 30 days to survive. Would I be able to survive? And the answer is, probably, because I actually know what's edible, what's not edible. I know just different survival things. But that's not what happens with most people. I'm probably kidding myself. I probably would be eaten by an iguana on the first night. I mean, that's probably the reality of it. And that's exactly what happens with you guys in real estate. You get plopped into real estate, and maybe some of you are lucky enough that you land with some basic information. But then beyond that, you have no shot of surviving. And all you got to do is look at the statistical fact that 85% of all agents fail within 18 months or less. And the other statistics basically all lay into that same consistent fact pattern with regards to, even if you stay in the business after that and you look at the failure rate, it's not until an agent's been in the business for like 5 years do they have a shot at making a career of it. And it's kind of shocking when you look at the numbers. And so you have to ask yourself, well, what's the difference between the agent that, say, for example, how did Julie and I sell? This is a real historical fact. That sounds onerous, but it's true. We sold over 100 houses our first year in the business when we were in our early 20s. The only real previous sales experience we had were, nothing, really. We were just basically right out of college. And how did we do it? Exactly the way we tell our coaching clients to do it. Exactly.
Yeah, and, that's without social media and a bunch of other stuff, but which they have to support their business.
Right.
Which we didn't even have back then.
Right.
I think it's actually, if you cut through all of the malarkey, or as my dad would say, the hooey, okay?
The hooey.
Cut through the hooey. It's always learning that one, by the way.
Good.
So she can use it on Uncle Mark when she visits. But
that's right.
Anyway, when you cut through all of that, it comes down to the same basic skills, but enhanced by a lot of great stuff. The confusion is that you guys think that the stuff online is the lead generation when it's not. It's in support of the hard work.
She's talking about the social networking. And so that, like, we use social networking in our business, but not to generate leads. And to what Julie is saying, we use it to reinforce our podcast. We use it to reinforce our coaching clients. That's it.
It's easy to be confused by that.
Right, exactly.
Especially if you came up in the past, 20 years or so, it'd be easy to be confused by that.
And the other thing is once you learn how to do the real work of real estate, for example, like we teach in our coaching program, you probably will never choose to do the gimmicky social networking stuff.
Yeah.
We've got coaching clients that do nothing, that are top producers selling 100, 200, 300 homes per year. And you guys have heard them on this podcast before, who do virtually no social networking because they know that's not where the business comes from. And yet, how many of you guys right now are sifting through your emails looking for some sort of latest gimmick that's going to somehow range 63 leads on you within a day, right? I mean, you believe that. You actually are. Why? Why do you do it? I know fundamentally, we've talked about it, because it's a hell of a lot easier to swallow the pill that goes down smoothly than the one that actually might require a little bit of effort. Might require an extra, concentration, might require you to have a slightly upset stomach along the way. Because the truth is what we're going to ask you to do is the real work of real estate, but it's going to have a long-term sustainable effect on your future in every meaningful way. Whereas these other things are just gimmicks, and all they're doing is they're appealing to your ignorance and your wanting to avoid anything that remotely resembles rejection. And they're also trying to appeal to your laziness in a lot of ways. Sure. And laziness being that if you guys know intuitively that those things are gimmicks and you still do them, and you know from listening to our podcast that there's other ways that you can go directly after the business. And Julie, let's talk about what today is and tomorrow and the following day. They're magical days, right? Mm-hmm. And we're about to talk to you guys about something that all of you longtime listeners have, you've heard us say every single month, and how many of you do it. So we're going to do a slight pivot here. And so the guy who actually sent me that email, that text, by the way, I'm not angry at him. I'm not in any way anything other than hopeful, because if you have people like that are ambitious like that, they're going to probably do great things in their lives when they essentially figure out what actually is selling snake oil versus selling things that are actually be of service to other people. So, there it is. All right, so let's talk about it. This day. Okay. Today, tomorrow, and the following day are
Expired Palooza, our favorite time of the year, which happens 12 times a year when the month changes, rolls over. Why? Because so many of you guys make your listings expire at the beginning of the month or the end of the month. But that's great for those of you who will actually pursue expireds. And here's the thing that I want to dispel some of their objections, right? So first of all, if I can maybe direct about this.
Me?
If I may be direct.
You're asking my permission?
Okay, for them, for their sake. Is, no, 5 billion realtors are not all calling expires. That is not true, okay? Just flat out, don't ask me to prove it. That is not true.
You just inspired me.
What?
We need to write this down. The 10 greatest lies in real estate.
All right, I'm writing it down.
That's a great podcast topic.
Yes. Okay. Next, stop complaining about how many phone numbers you can't get. Okay? Because there is no do not knock list. And there's a great company, by the way, called Forewarn, Forewarn, which is super cheap. It's like $10 or $20 a month. Not only do they get great phone numbers, but they also do background checks, so you're not calling crazy people.
Well, call crazy people too. Who cares?
As long as they're motivated.
They have
right?
a house to sell. What difference does it make?
So top 10. What am I writing down? Top 10.
Top 10 greatest lies told to agents.
Well, these are some of them.
Yes.
Okay. Told to agents. Okay, the next one is nothing expires in my market. Everything's hot. Everything's selling right away.
Right.
Not true. Why? Because some of you fall prey to aspirational pricing, whether that came from you or the seller, doesn't matter. You can still have overpriced even in a hot seller's market. If that weren't true, you'd never have appraisal problems.
Go back a year. Here's a quick homework assignment for you. Go back a year and look to see how many listings have expired in your market in the past 12 months. And here's a little game that some of you guys are going to play. You're going to make your market like a 2-block radius around your house. No. I want you to do it for your entire MLS. But Tim, my MLS is huge. Good. We're just trying to make a point. Okay, don't overanalyze. So go and do a search for your entire MLS and find out how many expireds there's been in the last 12 months. You could even do it last 18 months.
Sure. And
then if you know how to, but I'll tell you the result if you don't want to do the work. If you know how to, go and find out how many of those properties were relisted and then sold. So here's a statistic. Something like 90% get relisted and sold within 6 months. A vast majority of them get relisted within the first 30 days. Most listings expire because they're overpriced, that necessitating just one price adjustment. That's it.
Yes.
That statistically, everything I just said is true. So here's the fallacy in this whole, do you have another? I didn't mean to talk over your last point.
Well, I think you basically made it. Yes, they will relist. And those of our coaching clients who watch expireds, they always say the same thing. I can't believe the 12 that I was tracking, 9 of them have already relisted. If I had just called them.
The hell are you tracking them for?
I know, right? Just freaking call them, for the love of God.
Because they're getting ready to get started.
I know. Well, those are my top ones. The complaining about phone numbers is big because you can get phone numbers. There's also no do not knock list. There's no do not send pre-listing package list. And you can find phone numbers. It just takes a tiny bit more effort than you think.
Well, and they complain, I bought phone numbers and half the phone numbers are wrong. Yeah, but you
so
still have
what?
half the phone
Half
numbers
of them
are right.
Okay, so to that point, because this is on my list.
Aha.
Let's say that you have terrible phone numbers and not that many expired. So you're kind of like half right about your complaints about expireds, right? Okay. If your average net commission to you is $7,500, okay, and you only convert a lousy 1 per month, which, I mean, honest to God, who can't do that, right?
Right.
1 per month. Let's say you call 10 and you're not that great at your scripts and you're only okay at lead follow-up, but you get 1 a month.
90 grand.
It's 90 grand.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I tell coaching clients.
That's amazing, actually, when you think about that.
Freaking 90 grand.
I know. And you know what?
Okay.
Just hover there, just for the second, because you just made an absolutely batshit crazy insane point.
Thank you. We can stop now.
We can stop. The show just peaked.
The show is peaked.
Thank you for listening to us today.
I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. No, we have some fun stuff to talk about here in a second. But no, Julie, that's a really freaking valid point because we were just talking about all the insanity that all the realtors are wasting their time on, all this other crap.
Yes.
Whereas and the average agent in the country makes, $50 grand a year, something
Right.
like that. The average agent, as we've said too often on the Today's Show, is out of the business within 18 months or less. 85%, and of the 15% that remain, most of them are eking out an average income of 50 grand. Then you minus taxes, and they're making they make more money working at Home Depot. Truth.
Right.
And why? Because they're doing all the dumb crap. They're not doing the real work of real estate.
Not only are they only making that, but they're spending a ton of it.
All that on buying leads and
Right.
thinking they have to work on their logo.
I know, and I mean, think about it this way, right?
Tim, hold on, Julie.
Yeah.
They're not going to call us, they're not going to call us unless we've worked on our brand and they can go online and they know what our story is.
Hooey.
But seriously,
I know, right?
But it's not.
It's crazy. Okay,
it's crazy.
One deal, one. Okay,
expired.
one. Especially in today's market
No
because it's
buyers.
probably going to sell.
No buying leads.
No buying leads, nothing. 90 grand. Okay, so here's the thing. Think about it this way.
One
there are
expired per
not
month.
one, but 2 teachers toiling away teaching your children for 6 to 8 hours a freaking day online painfully for half that money. Okay, there are people whose full-time jobs don't even pay them half of that.
Right.
And you guys won't get off your butts and find a phone number or two. Come on. Okay, so here's the thing. I tell the coaching clients, Now that you have these facts, because these are all facts we're talking about.
Well, they can get the phone numbers. There's services that sell the phone numbers.
Absolutely. And I just told you one. Forewarn is a great one, but we give you a lot.
Premier Coaching members, we actually go through, there's like probably 10 of these companies.
Yep.
We're going through all of them now. We're trying to basically have closer business relationships with the ones that are the best. So anyway, Premier Coaching members, you can find that information on Harris Learning. Go ahead.
Script, not a problem. You get that easily in Premier Coaching.
But Julie, just the point you just made really is crazy. So why aren't more people in our position, coaches, trainers, influencers, wherever the hell our modern term is, why is it that more people aren't saying that?
I'll tell you, there's only one reason. Because they've never done it themselves.
That's right. They're full of shit.
It's hard to believe in something if you've never done it.
But they're full of shit.
Absolutely. And it's easier to say, well, you got to try this and try that.
Right.
And throw caution to the wind and then blame somebody other than yourself, that company that sold you that crap.
Right.
Okay. Maybe you need to switch companies or whatever.
Well,
so here's the thing.
Yeah.
Knowing these facts and not doing anything about it, you're literally turning your back on a minimum of $90,000 a year.
Right. And then that's
money, irresponsible.
And the money, so where is it, like, if they are successful at generating mostly buyer leads, and those mostly buyer leads, basically, you guys know you're going down the wrong path when somebody is trying to sell you something based on the number of leads. Because I'm going to say this, and you guys got to get this really clear in your head, otherwise you're always going to be easily manipulated. Leads have no value.
No.
A lead is just, you guys, many of you don't know what a white pages is. As I laugh.
know.
But there used to be in the olden days this book that you would have in your house that had a whole bunch of names, addresses, and phone numbers in it.
On actual paper.
Right. And now it's all online, whitepages.com. But it used to be this massive book, right? And so hypothetically, those were all leads, weren't they?
You got contact info?
That's right. You have addresses and you have phone numbers. Right. You have names. Why is that lead and that phone book is the same value as what you guys spend money on generating? Oh no, hold on, Tim, that's not fair. They're filling out a form and they're identifying themselves as a potential or a buyer or a seller. Well, guess what, guys? Here's a part of the great lie about all this. Everybody is a potential buyer or seller. It depends how the lead question was framed, right? It's like all these polls for the president. And people, polling is proven to be an absolute black art at best. And people sort of take joy in lying to the pollsters. And then you don't really know how they're going to vote until they voted. Remember the last presidential election? Probably going to have something like that happen again. So online lead generation, guys, these are just statistical facts, is the most the least effective, most costly way to generate business, and most costly in the form of your time, and most costly in the form of the cost it does for you to generate that lead. But you guys got to remember, you never, to Julie's point, actually take the time to understand what it is you're paying people to do for you. So you just succumb to whatever malarkey that they're selling you, and you keep on giving them your credit card number, hoping, and okay, guess what? There's 5 leads. Oh my gosh, it worked. I generated 5 leads. I spent $50. That's $10 a lead, or it's 62 cents a lead.
It's only 62 cents a lead.
Right. Wow, you're great. Oh my God, do you realize that most lead generation who cares? It doesn't matter.
It's even worse when they call them impressions.
Yes, I know.
I think that was like, for me, that was like very clear when it got to that point where they'd say, well, yeah, but we gave you 200 impressions.
Right.
What is that? I mean, you get impressions just looking at pictures on a Facebook ad.
Exactly.
Impressions are ridiculous.
Well,
that's like the biggest BS.
It is the biggest BS. All of it is. It's all just a bunch of hooey. I mean, to your dad's point.
But right. But, it makes me sad that nobody really educates them the right questions to ask, and that it's so easy to fall into those traps.
You and I are the only counterbalance. You might want to put that close to your mug. Yeah. You and I are the only counterbalance to that narrative that's going on right now about all of that, right?
You've done it.
And we get a lot of criticism for it, too.
Well, that's okay with me.
Well, most of it I ignore, truthfully.
Yeah.
But there were some people that were rather aggressive that were trying to defend their position. I'll give you a real quick example on... So eXp Realty uses a private work group Facebook page, and there were some people that were obviously trolling for agents to basically, buy the kind of crap that the guy was trying to sell me through SMS. And I had a very similar conversation with a couple of these guys where I was just asking them really basic questions. If the goal is to generate a really, very qualified lead, someone who actually has a real estate transaction that they must complete, and, all the contact information is available, and, they have to sell, they're willing to pay commission, all these things. Why would I bother doing all this other crap? And they couldn't come up with an answer. And the reason that they couldn't is because they've never actually learned how to do it. That's exactly what Julie said. So the reason that all these people are gravitating towards the social networking stuff is because they've only been in business, maybe it's a real estate license, mostly it's selling stuff to real estate agents, since 2007, or realistically within the last maybe 24 or 36 months. There is a whole gambit of internet marketers who are in the business of teaching people how to be internet marketers. That's like that's a big theme in internet marketing, is telling people how to basically be an internet marketer. And then the agents, basically fall into that because agents are opportunity seekers. And now they're trying to sell that same information now to agents. You see, it's just the perpetuation of really bad or essentially half-baked information that goes on forever. That results in, guess what, 85% of all realtors failing within 18 months or less. Right?
Yes,
you guys get it? You can't argue with numbers and facts and statistics. So Expired Palooza. For the love of God, people.
Seriously. A way to beg them to make an income. Come on.
Please. Yes.
Even to those of you who are already, let's say that you're already trucking along at a really nice average commission. This is your best year ever.
A lot of people are having that.
And they are.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. That's even more reason to call.
Right.
Some of our most experienced agents, so awesome when they call. I always tell them, if you're going to cherry pick, call in the neighborhoods that you've just had a sold sign. This just makes sense. And when we used to do this, they'd be like, is it really you calling? I see your sign all the time. It's so much easier for the ones that are experienced, who also are the ones who are a little bit more resistive. And so Expired Palooza. Are you
talking about expireds or for sale by owners, or just what are you?
Either one. When you hunt them down in neighborhoods that you've already, let's say that you've got, somebody like Colette McDonald in Brookhaven, right? Everybody who lives in Brookhaven has seen a Colette McDonald and Associates
She calls
sign.
on Expired. It's like a celebrity call.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And these are the same agents that will fight you more on it, especially because they don't, quote, need the money.
But
fine.
In all reality, when you use our scripts and you follow our system, you could be a brand new
easy.
agent. I have to say, those are the ones
I hear it all the time in Premier. It's
I know
great.
those are the best ones, right?
I love how they set the bar for stuff like this.
Well, we're attracting a lot of millennials. I've seen a lot of young people that are joining.
Yes.
That are joining Premier Coaching, and that's the group. I have to say, that trend really picked up for us in the past 12 months. People in their 20s and 30s joining our coaching program, and I think that's exciting as hell.
That's awesome.
Mostly for them.
Yeah, really? I know.
Because they know better. They're coming to us having grown up in the social media world, and are the most wise to what it really is and what it isn't, and so they're saying they're smart enough to say, I want to know how to actually make money in real estate because I realize all this.
Because they've already been through the woods on the other
stuff.
Well,
they know it's a gimmick and they grow up with it. For the rest of you guys who are older, it's novel. It's still interesting. Yeah. And so for these kids, they're all social media experts because that's how they grow up. And they know it's a farce as far as basically for an actual creation of a business. And that's right. I'm very encouraged by the number of younger people that are gravitating towards us, because those are guys who are going to be the dominant force in real estate in the future.
Absolutely. Setting the bar really high. Like, people like Jen Gennaro in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Okay. She has got the whole listing agent thing figured out. She is a listing agent. She's got that. And no, it's not all coming from social media, guys. So, and she's a great leader. She's in her early mid-30s, and she's going to have such a killer career in front of her because she's got this figured out. Now, back to Expired Palooza for a second. We touched on this on the Friday normal podcast because we knew we were coming into Expired Palooza weekend, which is even better.
Right.
Here's the thing. The pricing of the property is so much easier, number one. Number two, the agent who you otherwise would have competed with, who might be from their center of influence, has already failed. Okay, right. So you don't have that in your way
and
anymore.
They probably don't have a plan B with another agent in mind. By the way, your biggest competitor when you're calling expireds is going to be the previous listing agent. And the only reason, Mr. Seller, listen, I appreciate the fact that you're considering listing with your old agent, but let me ask you a real quick question. And guys, you don't have to use this question, but I always liked using it. What exactly is your old agent going to do differently this time that they hadn't already tried the first 6 months to get your property sold?
And then say nothing.
Right? And then because they've already had that thought, and all you're doing basically is putting another thought in their head that maybe they need to at least look at their alternatives.
Well, you're giving them permission to break up with the agent.
Right.
Disappointed them, for being honest.
Right. They did. The other agent, essentially, they do feel, even if it was their best friend, they do feel disappointed. And the other agent probably was not, they got it from because they're center of influence and past client, because they're their friend, not because they actually were the most qualified to get the listing. They're just the most convenient to get the listing.
And also probably not the most qualified to price it correctly to be competitive. or to advise them on things like negative feedback. Maybe, I see this a lot when they're buddy listings. You don't tell them the house smells like cat pee. You don't want to talk about that with your friend, right? But somebody else can come in that's a interested third party. So you've got a better CMA situation on your pricing. You've got less competition, not more, as you guys claim. Number 3 is they're way more coachable. They'll do things for you when it expires that they never would have done out of the gates. So some of the seller's ego issues are lessened because nobody ever thinks their house isn't going to sell. And now they're kind of over it and they're like, all right, tell me what I need to do. I'm going to do it.
They're humble. They're basically,
more humble.
The market's kind of shown them the way.
Which is good.
That convenient versus qualified, you got to write that down. We can build off that thought.
That's right.
Convenient versus qualified. Because we really, we're going from a who you know to a what you know business, but we're also going from a convenient versus qualified type of market too. So you guys have to obviously, be qualified, because then even if you're convenient but you're not qualified, you won't get the listing. Being qualified, you'll get the listing. It's a skills-based approach, really. Well, so expires, guys. It's happening right now. Do something with it. And to Julie's point, you only needed to list one. In this market, it'll sell, right? You only need to list one per month with the average commission. If your average sale price was $250, you're going to make, obviously not taking consideration broker expenses, but you're going to be making $7,500 per transaction. That's $90,000 per year.
Well, and some of these guys have like an average net of like 12 or 13
I know.
grand.
And some of them
I did it very conservatively when I figured that out.
So why don't you guys think in terms of, well, what do I have to do to learn how to basically be the agent that can earn the business of those expired listings? What would you have to stop doing to frame out your brain like that? You'd have to stop doing all the silly ass time wasting garbage that you probably been doing, thinking that someday somehow magically it's going to make you money. Guys, I'm going to say it. I know it's annoying, but it's still true. 85% of all agents fail within 18 months or less. It's because they don't do the right things in their business. They don't actually take the time to learn the skills necessary to earn the right to be a seller, to be a listing agent. That's that simple, guys. Why don't you just cut out all the malarkey and just focus like a laser beam right in on how to become a listing agent? That's what we teach you in our coaching program.
Yeah, and even though
primarily,
I gave a kind of a low bar example of if you only converted one and your average commission was only this, that's not what we coach. We coach them to be rock stars. We coach them to first figure that out and then figure out how to scale that up, how to really do that exponentially if that's what you want. Maybe the one deal that gives you the 90 grand is enough. And that's fine, and that's where you want to level out. That's fantastic. But what if you did 2 or 3 a month?
Well, you can only think like that when you're a listing agent.
That's exactly it.
I remember there was this great coaching client. I know his name is Howard Cozine. I think Cozine.
I can imagine.
And this was from maybe 15 years ago. It was like 1,000 years ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you remember him because I was always jealous of his lifestyle.
Yes, I know. That's exactly
right, so
what I
this guy lived in Hawaii, and he actually got into real estate in, I think it was, I don't remember. It was either a crash in 80s or the 90s, when when the current, basically he was entering into this marketplace where there's real dominant listing agents who were centers of influence and past client, connected, and the market shift, prices dropped, and those agents says, we've been warning you, we're always the first ones to get wiped out the fastest. The centers of influence and past client agents don't survive the shift to a buyer's market. They just don't. And for all the normal reasons you'd expect, mostly skills based. So he then realized that. He then stepped into this gap that was in the marketplace as he saw lots of these expired listings starting to happen. He started to, do the old school of what we teach of, picking up the phone, calling, earning the right to be the listing agent. And he then became, over not a very long period of time, the most dominant listing agent in this particular market. He then did enhance his marketing in addition to making phone calls with postcards. I think he only mailed 1 postcard per month. But here's the interesting thing that he figured out for himself, and I really like this actually, is that he would hire me like every year this time of year. Actually, no, every year he would hire me like in January or December. And his whole goal was to take a certain number of listings by usually April or May, right? So his goal may be to have 12 active listings or 15 active listings. Sure, some would sell along the way, but that's fine. His average commission was high enough. It was something like $15,000 or $18,000, and he figured out that if he just works his butt off for 3 or 4 months of the year, he's going to earn enough money to basically pay for his lifestyle through the rest of the year, and he's right as rain.
I totally remember that because I had in my head, I always thought of him as Howard in Hawaii. That's the same guy. And, only skilled listing agents can do that.
Right.
Because you can't do that with the roulette wheel of buyers. And you can't do that. I think it's great when you get center of influence deals. I do, because they're easier and they trust you. but they're not predictable. You can't
Nope.
tell me who in your database is going to list with you tomorrow,
It's
and you can't tell me what price that house is going to be, and you can't tell me if it's going to be sellable.
Now take that same thought and apply it to social networking leads and all
And
that
it's
other
even
stuff.
more.
Then it just even gets more insane, you know?
Right, but when you not only are willing to, but have worked on the skill of things like expireds for sale by owner, probate, new construction, things that take an effort, you actually can create that lifestyle if you wanted to.
In multiple markets too.
Absolutely. And it's not, you don't have to do the 3 months on and 9 months off or whatever,
No.
but you can say, you know what, I'm going to get to my magic number of listings. And then all I have to worry about is replacing, if one sells today, I got to sell one, I've got to replace one, not I've got to go find 10 to get to my magic number. That's what agents, I think, don't realize. To your point at the top of the call, why do 85% of them fail? Because they don't understand how to get to the predictable spot, right? How to get to listing inventory. Nobody tells them that.
You know, it's Sunday. We forgot to do a CTA. How funny is that? Which, by the way, Julie just touched on something. She said, it's how casual we are on Sunday.
I know.
She said, real estate magic number. That's part of the real estate treasure map we give you guys for free. If you want to learn more about our coaching program and get the real estate treasure map and all that, we have 7 free books, actually. All you've got to do is text the word survival to 31996. Just text the word survival to 31996. In doing so, you're also going to get free membership to the free coaching program that we started back in March as a reaction to the pandemic. So that coaching program has had thousands of agents join from all over the country and different parts of the world too, which I'm really thrilled to see. We're now podcasting in 49 different countries, which is incredible. This continues to be the number 1 listened to daily podcast in the nation. And man, wouldn't it be cool to make this the number 1 listened to daily real estate coaching podcast in the world? That sounds like a lofty goal. I like it. Yeah.
I'll take it.
Well, but anyway, so yeah, guys, the real freedom in real estate does not come from doing all the things that most of you guys are doing. It comes from the power of being a listing agent because you ultimately create leverage. And I'm going to tell one more little quick story. Mm-hmm. So I had this coaching client, and this guy was a millennial. Mm-hmm. He worked at Douglas Elliman, great company in New York.
Okay.
And he was burned out on selling. He had done a bunch of leases. I taught him how to start prospecting. He was proactively generating his own listing leads. But he was, I think he was like looking down the barrel at turning 30 or something, right?
Right.
And he'd worked his butt off. He'd been very diligent, not just a really good guy. And then he said, Tim, I'm getting burned out on real estate. It's not that I don't love it. It's just that I feel like the clock is ticking and I haven't done the other things I wanted to do in my life. And I haven't done them by the age in which I wanted to do them by. And I thought, well, okay, that's cool. But we can't let him lose the momentum that he's built towards, building a sustainable real estate career. But at least this guy had been smart enough to focus on becoming a powerful listing agent. So I made a deal with him. Same deal with Howard, right? He has to take a certain number of listings by a certain time frame. And remember, this guy was ambitious, but he lost his mojo. So I don't remember what the time constraints were. I think it was something like 180 days to accomplish certain financial goals. And after that, he could check out for the rest of the year. And he did it in like freaking 3 months. He just ripped it up and he left early.
Yeah.
And then he sent me pictures.
But why is that?
Well, it's because he knew he could because he had
worked on the skill.
He was incredibly motivated to basically travel the world, which is what he wanted to do, which he did.
Right.
And ended up sending us pictures from all over the world.
It's awesome.
It was awesome. Yeah. But yeah, he mastered the skill. He didn't wait to get around to get started. He stopped procrastinating.
I think it's also because you defined it for him.
Yeah.
If you do this, then you can have that.
Right.
Instead of, maybe I'll get a new deal this week. Maybe I'll try this and maybe I'll try that. You defined, here's how you win.
Well, you just did that with the whole simplistic. It's almost so goofy what you said because it's so obvious. But take one stinking expired listing. You guys are full-time in real estate, many of you, or even if you're part-time. Calculate all the time that you claim that you're working.
I know.
And how long would it really take for you to master the art of being a powerful, just expired listing agent? How long would that take you? Most of you guys could become absolutely lethal at it in less than a month
Easily.
if you focused on it.
If you just make it something that you're great at.
And you followed our system, right? We tell you who to call, how to call, when to call, what to say, the scripts, what to say, the objection handlers, how to pre-qualify. We give you a done pre-listing pack. All you've got to do is copy it for yourself. We give you a listing presentation. Julie, there's a mosquito on your finger.
They must go.
No, it flew off.
You don't even have to be perfect at it, okay? So that's the other objection I should have mentioned earlier.
Right.
You don't have to drill a role play partner for, 17 million calls. You just have to pick up the phone and earn while you learn. And I'll tell you a nice byproduct to being really good at this expired thing. We talk about expireds today because it's expired palooza.
That's right.
A nice byproduct to becoming great at that is that when you do that, you also, thank you for the bug spray.
You're welcome.
We came prepared this time.
Yep.
You also become really great at for sale by owners because the scripts are so similar.
FSBOs are I personally, if given a choice, I always liked expireds. For the number one reason being is, they're going to be willing to pay a commission.
Yeah.
But the biggest of the big reasons is because you know what the price isn't.
Right, I agree.
And then the market has essentially humbled that seller to the extent that they're going to be a lot more discerning who they're going to hire to be their listing agent. Mm-hmm. And guys, even as a brand new agent, and Julie and I touched on this, if you follow our system and you use the pre-listing pack and all the rest of it, you're going to have, I can't guarantee you any levels of success. I have no idea, who knows. But you're going to increase the likelihood of you getting that listing. It has to be by 1,000% more. And those of you guys who've been in the business, and this is the group that I think I feel, frankly, the most attached to. Not the new agents. New agents like these millennials that are finding us, they're actually easy because they do what they're told. They're following a system, and we don't have to deprogram them. But those of you who have been in the business, especially those who have only been in the business the last 10 years, you guys have got a lot of crap to sift and sort in your minds before you start seeing the truth about what a blessing this industry is if you're willing to do the real work of real estate. Now, Julie, I want to talk about something else that just popped into my mind.
What's that?
So I've been getting a lot of calls and frankly, a lot of conversations. I bet you last week, let me expand it. I bet you in the last 2 weeks, I've had 20 conversations, maybe even more, with teams and brokers who all basically they're contacting me because they're worried about, their business in essence. Right. They don't always present like that, but it doesn't take me long to basically sort it out. Yeah. Most of them, they'll call me up and they'll have these you've had conversations like this. They want to rattle on about all their awards and how successful they are. Mm-hmm. And anytime they always start out by saying how many units they sold or how big their team is, right? And so they'll talk about their teams in their organization, and it's not for naught, right? I mean, there is a level of accomplishment with that. But then I sort of let them talk, and then they'll come around and say why they're actually wanting to talk with me. Now remember, most of them are finding me from the podcast, so they kind of know what I'm going to tell them, right? It's not like I'm just a cold call. So they know they're sort of walking into the lion's den. And so I know what they're getting to is the fact that their business isn't profitable, right? But they want me to see them as being people that are achievers, and they tried, but they want me to tell them, and this is what I'm telling all of you, you guys, if your business isn't profitable, especially your brokerage or your team, if you're fearful of losing money, if your entire business is predicated on buying leads, and you are starting to internalize the idea that maybe you don't have what it takes to be successful because of the fact that you haven't been able to decode this Rubik's Cube, this 47-sided Rubik's Cube, and my God, you should have been able to figure out how to do it by now, and why your team members keep quitting, and why do you have profitable and unprofitable, why is it all this, and yet everyone seems to relish in your success because you sell a bunch of units and you have this big team, and yet in your heart of hearts you're knowing that you're not moving your personal financial needle at all. Guys, you are great at what you could be doing. You're just not doing the right thing. There's a difference between quitting, and you guys got to write this down. And this is something Julie and I learned a long time ago. We don't say it very often because it has to be received as intended. Otherwise, you guys get confused. So here it is. There's a difference between quitting and quitting while you're ahead. And I think who said that? I'm pretty sure Baron von Rothschild said that right. Back in the 1700s.
A lot of people quoted it, so it's probably it's attributed to whoever. Yes.
So don't give Julie and I credit for that because we didn't think that up. When we do think things up, we will ask for credit.
Absolutely.
We deserve it.
That's right.
We don't come up with very many brilliant ideas, Mike, Julie. Yep. So the moral of the story is there's a difference between quitting and quitting while you're ahead. So what does that mean? If you essentially have been doing something for a long period of time, and it's not getting you the results, and you've convinced yourself you have to keep doing it, you know what? You're making a mistake. You just need to quit because what's happening is that idea or that thing is taking up mental and usually financial energy that would be going to something else. And if something else isn't buying leads or doing something else for the sake of your business, it could just be going to taking your family to Disney World. Mm-hmm. So some of you guys get caught in these ego traps where everyone's doing it, so you think you're supposed to be doing it too, even though you know it's not working, you're still going to do it because everyone's doing it. I'll give you a personal example. Julie and I did that when we were selling real estate in the 90s with Homes magazines.
Yep.
We saw all the most successful agents in our marketplace. You guys might not remember this, but there used to be homes magazines. These big, and in the day, these things were like,
there still are in some markets.
They're huge, though.
You can find them at grocery store checkouts and stuff.
So agents would market their listings in these home magazines, and even though the agents all knew that the shiny pictures and the flowery description was doing absolutely nothing to sell the house, guys, marketing does not sell real estate. That is a lie. You price it right, you put it in the MLS, assuming the house has good price, condition, location, it will sell, right? That's the beauty of the MLS and the system that we all walk into.
Even when there's more inventory, it'll sell.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Exactly.
Which they all live in fear of,
When it's a huge buyer's market and there's, 5 houses for every one buyer, marketing's not going to get houses sold any more than marketing gets sold now. And I know some of you guys believe marketing sells real estate. Marketing does not sell real estate. Pricing it right, assuming it has good condition and location, it will sell itself out of the MLS. And it's your job basically to facilitate the sale. That is the bottom line. So you have essentially, how did I get on that little tangent?
Marketing. The homes magazines.
All right. So we had homes magazines.
Yeah,
Thank you
because
for
I
paying
remember
attention.
it was painful, and we did make that mistake.
We did.
Yeah.
And so we would go on listing appointments, and we have become, some of the top listing agents with Remax, certainly in our MLS. And then we had this, we need to start doing the top agents are doing, because obviously if these big name agents are doing these big ads, then on these big home brochures and their magazines, they're taking up 4 and 5 and 6 page. Well, it must be for the sake of generating business. It must be because it's something that's going to and we did it, and it didn't generate any business, and we kept doing it, didn't generate any business, and we were smart enough to keep track of where our actual business came from. We did it on a dry erase board. That shouldn't surprise any of you guys, and we were tracking this, and we probably took out those dumb homes and land ads for probably 4 or 5 years without having any real discernible business from it.
Yeah.
Just because, frankly, we were too naive to know that we needed to know the difference between quitting and quitting while we were ahead. And we would track where all of our especially listing side business came from, and it always most of it always came from the exact core things that we teach you in our coaching program, and never came from the flowery extra crap. And then we started doing some direct mail. Same thing. The business, a vast majority, like we would get the occasional person that said, "I just got your postcard." Your sold card, and that's the reason I'm calling you. And then I bet we mailed out millions of those things when we were believing marketing worked, right? Uh-huh. And when the messaging was great, everything about them was professionally designed, the whole thing. And then occasionally you'd have a seller. Well, why are you calling Tim and Julie Harris for the interviewing for the job of selling your house? Was the pre-qual script. And they would say, well, I just got their postcard. But that was never the real reason. And the real reason is because they just sold my neighbor's house because someone referred them to us and the whole thing. But the seller, maybe just received the postcard, was going to call us anyway and just said postcard. We didn't realize that the real reason those people were calling us was almost always from the real work of real estate we were doing, until we were listening to Kelly. Whitfield was her name, who was actually doing a pre-qual from a seller that called us, and she was filling out the form, and she got to that question I just read to you guys, and there was boxes to check, and then she checked postcard, and then she accidentally asked the question again, and then they started explaining how this other person referred them, and Julie and I thought, well, how many times have we had Kelly ask that question, or we've used it ourselves when pre-qualifying sellers, and we didn't ask the same question twice, and believing their first answer was the real reason why they called us. And then when we started doing that, then we quickly realized how foolish we had been in believing all the marketing stuff, the same stuff you guys are falling prey to now.
That's right. So moral of the story is your best marketing is the sold sign that you put in that neighborhood.
That's
and
it.
Even if you have no marketing budget and no experience, you all can do that on your first or your next expired or for sale by owner listing. You all can do that because that will lead to the next thing. You guys want buyer leads? Be a listing agent. Get one listing, or for some of you, one more listing maybe this month, or for some of you this week. Many of our elite coaching clients have homework of a listing a day that they go on and a listing appointment a day that they set. So they have to set one and go on one daily. And it's absolutely possible to do that if that's what you need to do.
So back to my story, talking to all these brokers and these teams. So one of the things I have them do, because when they're always talking to me about profitability, and they're talking, a lot of them are coming to us because they want to join our EXP team at EXP. They want to have Julie and I sponsor them. They want to actually work directly with us in their real estate business as they work on expanding their revenue share at EXP. So they text me directly, and you guys can do the same at 512-758-0206. 512-758-0206. So one of the things that EXP has many different ways that teams can join EXP, one of which is called the Mega Icon Team. And to be a Mega Icon Team, you have to accomplish all three of these things. You have to have a team of 10 people, sell 175 units a year, and have the total volume be $40 million. And, because of COVID, it's maybe not the last 12 months. It might be the last 18 months, just because, 3 months are to be forgotten this year, right? So they're flexible somewhat, but there's the basic standards. So all these brokers and teams, they're coming to me. And the first conversation I have with them is trying to see if they'll qualify to be a Mega Icon team. Because if they are, then the total amount that they're going to pay EXP, complete amount they're going to pay in commission splits per year, is about $56,000. And then after the main team leader, or the former broker who's now, basically a Mega Icon team, they're getting a essentially what amounts to their cap back in the form of EXPI stock. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's the gist of it. So then the whole Mega Icon team only ends up paying, in essence, $4,000 per year per agent. So the agents on the team, or who may have been part of that brokerage, their cap is $4,000. I know I just gave you guys a bunch of information. If you want more information, just text me directly, 512-758-0206. But one of the things I discover when I'm talking with all these teams and these brokerages, and I'm looking at their profit and loss statements, because I have to help them put it together so then I can send it in to EXP so they can get approved to be a Mega Icon team, is I always go through their numbers, and I am always shocked. Not shocked, but I'm always, I don't know what the word would be. After doing this work for so long, I don't know what the emotional response is, but I don't know. It's weird. I feel sorry for them. I guess that's the core of it. But I look at their businesses, and I see a lot of these guys and gals, and especially these brokerages and these big teams. They've been at it for so long, and I'm able to see what the profit is they're making from the business. I am able to see, I can tell everything just by looking at their numbers. Like some of them have, one or two agents that they call listing specialists, or they have buyer specialists. And then you go over and you can see that, maybe this listing specialist, maybe their listing specialist team, they're doing on paper, which looks like really great listing business. And then on the buyer, you look at all the top line numbers, and they all look impressive. 200 transactions, 300 transactions. And they qualify for Mega Icon. They can move to EXP, and most of them are going to make way more money than they ever did. That's the reason a lot of them are motivated to come our direction now and be part of our EXP group, because they're going to make so much more money in so many different ways. But just for the sake of what I'm trying to explain, then I look at their marketing budget, and I look to see how much they're paying for each of the closings that they're experiencing. And that's one of the things that I help people to do in our coaching programs. I want you to look at your business it's a two-sided coin, right? You have the cost of listing lead acquisition, you have the cost of buyer lead acquisition. And if you don't basically separate those things out, then what's going to happen is the more profitable side of your business, which is generally your listing side of the business, it's going to end up basically covering the negative cash flow from the buyer side of your business, and you're just not even going to realize it. And I've seen this with every single brokerage and team I've spoken with. Most of them are making barely double-digit net profits. And if the market were to turn against them for just 30 or 60 days, they're going to be out of business because they don't have the savings to support the cash flow that's necessary to continue to buy the leads. I've had people that are spending, tens of thousands of dollars per month buying leads, and yet they don't track it. And the consistent element amongst all of them is none of those team leaders have been in the business for more than 10 or 12 years. And so they've only known to buy leads. And they've only known to train their teams to buy leads. They've only known to be beholden to buying leads. They've never learned how to generate the business themselves. And so the natural conversation I ask them after I've shown them the fallacy of their business model, and I don't do it in such a way to make them feel bad, because I realize that most of them have already, they know that the business model that they're following isn't profitable because they're not building any real wealth, but they're caught in an echo chamber. Everyone's doing the same thing, saying the same thing. And it's not until they come across, frankly, Julie and I, that they realize, I've always known that was an asinine business model, but I've not known any different than to do it. And so Julie and I show them how to make a couple tweaks and how to point out some obvious little fallacies in their business. But let's just go back to the point that Mrs. Harris made not so long ago. These are actual numbers. I want you guys to think about this. Let's say that your goal in your real estate business was to make $250,000 a year. I can even make it. I'll even make it more realistic. Okay, because the average agent only earns 50 grand. So I'm going to say, let's say your goal is to earn, say, $120,000 to $150,000 a year. Okay, that's a good goal. Most people have a very nice life off $10,000 or so dollars per month. Okay, so we're going to focus on that for a second. Did you guys know that the average broker who has a total GCI of, say, $1 million is only going to earn about $50,000 net before tax profit on that $1 million, on essentially the $1 million in commissions? And the average team, and this is a well-run team, is only going to earn. So you have a team leader. The team leader, they had a really good year. They made $1 million. They have all these buyer agents. They have listing specialists. They have ads. They have marketing, branding. Everyone thinks they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, especially themselves. Joke. Mm-hmm. And then they have $1 million in commission, and all the while their actual net profit after all of that expense from running that business and buying those leads, because none of the agents on their team and they aren't proactively lead generating, so having to buy everything, is maybe $100,000 to $120,000 a year. Maybe 150, right? If they're charging processing fees or something like that. This is what I see consistently. So let's think about that. So you're thinking to yourself, well, okay, I form a team, I take the risk, and I go through the hassle of running the adult daycare. I do the whole thing, and I'm making $150,000 a year. Maybe that's okay. You convince yourself, well, that's a nice goal to have. But here, why would you bother doing the other thing and spending all the money and having all the liability? Why would you go so you're trading your time that was working with buyers and sellers, and you're trading that from working with building your team member and worrying about making sure the bills are paid. You're not working less, you're just doing different things. You've delegated certain things, but you've assumed a lot of other responsibilities. Again, that's the fallacy of the team model. That's the fallacy of a brokerage, by the way, but more so the team model. So if you wanted to earn, here's the punchline. If you wanted to earn, say, $150,000 a year, and you are willing to do it by being a listing agent, you guys can do the math on that. Using Julie's math of $7,500 a transaction, if you just listed 2 houses a month, right, 2 expireds per month, you would earn, using Julie's math of $7,500 a transaction, you'd earn $180,000 a year. So if all you did was list 2 expireds per month, you'd earn $180,000 a year, which means that you would earn more money selling basically, a house and a half basically per month than net profit than the agent who's walking around like a peacock, who everyone thinks is the greatest thing since sliced bread, with that big team. You actually would have more net profit, or the same net profit, because you had no expenses against that income that you were making. Isn't that interesting?
I would argue that they'd have more. Can I tell you how?
Tell me.
I think it would be virtually impossible if you were taking 2 mix and match expireds, FSBOs, all expireds, whatever, 2 listings per month, because the buyer leads it would throw off.
Yeah.
And because the people buying your listing would have something to sell.
That's true.
You'd have to work hard to sell less than 2 per month.
Yeah, you would.
You'd have to be a blockhead about your lead follow-up.
Right. And if you guys, like, for example, we've had people that have joined our coaching program that did not want to work with buyers, did not want to give up their nights and weekends.
So refer it. You're still going to make more.
Exactly. Refer to how many agents in your own office will basically pay you 35% referral fee, which is insane for a buyer lead. So you then pre-qualify your buyer leads. You pull out the buyer leads that have houses to sell. You obviously go after the listings, to Julie's point, and then all the other buyer leads you refer off, and you make 35%. If you had a team with buyer agents, you will not make 35% net profit on those buyer side transactions those buyer agents do. You'll make way less than that, if not lose money off every buyer side. Do you guys get the point of all this? Are you guys following me on all this? We're telling you the truth. But if you've only been in the business for 10 years or less, you're caught in the echo chamber of buying leads and having teams.
Well, and they focus on the wrong things, right? They focus on, they think they've got to do those things or they're not going to have that net, when in fact, doing those things will make sure you don't have that net.
Right. It's
very counterintuitive. And I do feel bad that it's not entirely their fault. They don't know where to look for those answers. And the people that are around the office don't have the same outlook. Nobody says that. And yet it's such an obvious truth. Because nobody does the math with them. That's basically
well,
it.
we just did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I actually call it FSBO math, expired math, in the Harris Rules book.
Right.
And I do these equations with them and say, look, if that's all you did, this is where you'd be. What could you do with that 90 grand? What could you do with that 180 grand? How would your life change? How would your career change?
Right.
How would your daily schedule change? Because it doesn't take 8 hours a day to do that. There's nobody that says earning 180 grand a year or even 120 grand a year in real estate has to take you 40 hours a week.
Nope.
You guys are just grinding away and, oh my God, I didn't get home until midnight because you're doing the wrong things.
You are. You're believing the lies. You're wasting the time on doing the things that will never generate you business.
And you end up working with clients that are not that easy to work with because you're trying to force people who aren't that motivated or qualified into deals that they probably shouldn't be in, and you don't even realize it. And unfortunately, some of these guys listening think that that's how real estate is, because they haven't learned to proactively lead generate and capture people that really are motivated.
When you generate, you don't have to tolerate.
That's right. And here's the thing. People who have to sell a home are actually fairly easy to work with.
Yep.
So
they are. They're motivated because they, guess what, have to sell a house. They want you to help them solve a problem.
Yeah.
You know, and so guys, listen, we went down a rabbit hole, but it is so true. And it's one of our favorite rabbit holes ever. And the reason we like it is because we know globally, I suppose, but mostly in the United States, 92% of you are listening to us in the United States. I know what we just said has changed at least, 10 people's lives. I know there are at least maybe 20 of you, maybe 30 of you that are listening to us and are saying, I have a team that's not working. I have a brokerage that's not working. I don't want to feel like I'm a failure because I couldn't make this thing work. You're not a failure because you couldn't make this thing work. It just doesn't work. That's it. Now, the model that you're following, a lot of you guys are blindly following, the Gary Keller millionaire real estate thing. It was written back in the 90s, and it was written before commissions were essentially on average less than 3%. It was written before the advent of all buying buyer leads. If you read Gary's book, the essence of it was everybody has to proactively lead generate. Who says that? Tim and Julie Harris, right? So you have to teach your team, if you want to have a team, you have to teach them to have a skills-based approach. That way you have a profitable business. But you guys don't know how to do it because you've not done it, so you've got to learn how to do it. And once you learn how to do it, then you can have freedom. And it's incredibly important that you listen to what we're saying, because as this market continues to pivot into whatever's next, right, the importance of knowing your numbers is going to be more so now than ever, because you cannot count on essentially the fluidity of cash flow that we've had for the past 5 years. Now, things might be even more buoyant. The market might even be more crazy, which even makes it even more important to have a skills-based approach, because more people then will get into the real estate business, and they'll all be running to the buying of buyer leads and the easy buttons, just as many of you guys have been falling prey to that for, over a decade. Anything else you want to say to these guys?
Yeah, I'll leave them with my math thought. Not doing something about this, you really are turning your back and saying, no, thank you to that pretty easy business once you figure out a few scripts. No, thank you. If you had this same conversation with your spouse or significant other or your kids, and you said, you know what, I heard about this thing on this podcast today that if I just do this, I can have that. But, I don't know. It just seems too hard to me.
I'm going to make it more complicated.
It won't work in my market.
I'm going to go believe some fairy tale about having to basically create a bunch of YouTube videos.
That. You just boost your this and your that.
Exactly.
And you'll be okay. And honey, we can just wait for that to work.
Right. And you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to do some open house, or not some open houses, but I'm going to do some postcards. Open houses, by the way, kick ass.
Especially now.
Right, exactly.
Assuming you're allowed to do them.
Right,
yes,
exactly.
That's a whole other conversation.
Which
we should have on a podcast this week. But
absolutely. So, Julie, here's the thing.
So that's my parting thought is, turn your back on that if you want to, but make sure you discuss it with your family so they know what you're doing.
Exactly. Make sure you apologize ahead of time for the future version of you who is going to be lamenting the laziness of the current version of you. So write a letter. Dear future Bob, it's now 12 months from when I'm writing this letter. And, I want to, let's just be honest, apologize for being lazy. And I did find the fairy tale of making a whole bunch of YouTube videos and Instagram boosting and doing all this other Mickey Mouse. I did actually do all of that stuff. And, like these goofballs, Tim and Julie Harris told me it didn't work. But I wanted to do it anyway, even though in my heart of hearts I knew it wasn't going to work. But listen, future version of Bob, here's the bad news, is we've wasted a year. I've spent an untoward amount of money and time on basically, chasing rainbows. And now the reality of it is I realize that you are going to have to suffer, because not only are you going to have to pay off the credit card debt from all the gimmicks that I've basically been blowing our hard-earned money on, but I'm also now going to have to ask you to, work 5 times harder, because now you have to catch back up.
Yep.
Now, so here's what I want you to do, future version of you. Just listen to what Tim and Julie say. Join their coaching program, read their book, do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. That way, the future version of you, a year from when you're now reading this letter, is not going to be hating on the current version of you.
That's right. Instead, you'll say, thank you, past Bob, for not having to waste all that time and money and having to investigate and prove it yourself. Thank you, Fast Bob, for getting it together and just picking up the phone.
Yeah,
Seriously.
or just doing all the other numerous things we tell you how to do to proactively go after the business that's
If you don't
already.
do it for yourself, do it for us. Make our lives easier. Why do we have to beg you guys to make income like this?
Hold on, Julie.
I know.
You got
I'm just
you got to
joking.
really frame that out. If everyone immediately got our message, we'd have nothing to say.
Well, that's true. It's called what is it? Coaching job security.
Yeah, this is job security.
That's true.
Yeah,
You're right. I take it back.
Their hesitance to learn.
Rewind.
And actually, we should be praising all the goofball competitors that we have because they're the ones that are making what we sell
That's
that much
true.
more relevant.
And much more effective, too.
But unfortunately, that isn't how we actually think.
No.
What we actually think about is the fact that we want you guys not just to survive, but to thrive through this market transition. So on the other side of this, you guys are experiencing quality of lives from having helped other people
That's
that
right.
you could have only dreamed of because you were willing to do what you didn't want to do and you didn't want to do it for a very long period of time. That's called life, guys. Everything worth having is going to take a hell of a lot longer than you think it should. That's only the unfortunate truth. So listen, guys, if you want to join our free coaching program, just text the word survival to 31996. If you want to talk to me about joining our EXP group, as I am confident, dozens of you do every single week, just go ahead and text me directly at 512-758-0206. And look, everyone should be taking a hard look at the brokerage that they're with. You need to take first steps and learn about why so many, literally tens of thousands of agents are joining EXP. Text me directly, 512-758-0206. When you do, I'm going to text you back. I'm going to ask where you are on the, essentially your readiness scale to join EXP. And if you're just seeking information, that's perfect. I'll email you a big group of, essentially it's our EXP pre-listing pack, answer all your questions. And then you and I will have a conversation maybe a day or so after you've absorbed all that information. And then most of you are going to move forward and you're going to want to join Julie and I at EXP. So go ahead and text us directly at 512-758-0206. Anything else you'd like to say?
Nope, get to work.
That is a really cool toenail color, by the way. What is that color
Thank you.
called?
It's called Mermaid.
That looks like something Zoe would like.
I think she picked it out, actually.
I bet you she did.
Thank you.
So, guys, remember, you can listen to our podcast at any time on iTunes, Stitcher, and we're on Audible now. We're on Spotify. We're on just every single place you could possibly expect to find a podcast. We're there. Thank you for listening to the #1 daily listen to coaching podcast for agents in the United States and hopefully the world. Have a fantastic day, guys.